So as all of you know, you can see her, and she's actually someone we became quite close, and we became good colleagues over the process of prepping for the case study. And Lo, you sat with me. We worked together in May, right?
Yeah, right.
So what my hope is that she will have some things to offer to many of you. She is also someone who came to CIMA, do CIMA after a long break, and then tried the paper, went through a bad experience, and then not that, as almost all of you, a highly skilled veteran in her space and game, but SCS demands its own style, I suppose, and then had a bit of a small hiccup, and then we worked together and she was able to get through the paper. So I did want to bring her expertise and share her own perspective about this. All right, so my first question is, please do give us a brief introduction to yourself.
Sure. My name's Losini. I actually sat the CIMA exam initially back in 2010. I think 2011, actually. 2011, I sat all my operational managerial levels. That was, so going back, I studied here. I went to university to a place called London School of Economics in London. And I did a degree in mathematics and economics. Then I got a job in investment banking. But in the 6 months that I had a gap, I had come to Sri Lanka and I had done the CIMA courses, foundation, I don't know what it was called, operations to managerial level. Then I was in investment banking for 6 years, and then I moved back to Sri Lanka after living in the UK for 10 years. So I just moved back, and then I took a year to settle in, and then I thought I might as well finish my CIMA exam because now I'm in the accounting field. I am a tax consultant, but I still need to do my chartered too, but I had to finish my CIMA. So I intended to do the final 3 papers. I did one back in April last year. Then I did two in January, February, I think. And then within 3 weeks, I was trying to do the SCS paper, which first attempt I didn't sit it with Azman. Nothing about it. I've been pretty much a nerd, but also I hadn't failed an exam. So this was the first exam I had failed, which was quite, I don't know, it was a shocker. I didn't expect to fail, but I did fail. I was quite disoriented because I've also done the CFA and I didn't have problems with that. So when I did this, it happened, and that's when I met Azman, and how I started to work with him for the May exam. And I didn't want to sit the exam even then. I think I was quite bruised by the experience in February because of the experience I had with my previous tutor and all sorts of things. So I was glad to see the back of CIMA at that point
Sure.
with the help of Azman.
Sure. I think a lot of members, even I had a chat with a couple of members today who failed the exam last time, and they said the exact same thing, that they didn't feel like doing it again. They felt demotivated after getting that failed result, especially if you haven't failed a paper before. So I think I really, kind of understand that sort of mentality. So how did you overcome that negative mentality after the failed result? What was your...
To be honest, I think I've had these chats with you. I didn't want to split the paper. A couple of times I think I did speak to you, but I think what gave me the confidence the most is the way we prepared for the May exam was so much different to how we had prepared for the Feb exam. And the style of the coaching that I had, the assistance, and also the tools you had given had slowly helped me get the confidence it was okay that I could attempt it, because the results come, I think, somewhere mid-April or something, and then you have to sit in May. So first I took 2 weeks to digest it, and that's when I registered. So I had only, I think, a month to go for the exam. And also the case study, it was initially some coffee industry, then it became hoverboards. So it was not that the same topic I was repeating. So I had a month to go, and I am working full time. But the fact that it was COVID helped me, the fact that I was working from home. But I think it was the chats that I had with you and also the material that you gave. What happens, I can write okay. In my field, I have to write a lot. But what it was I think what I realized from my first mistake is there's real life experiences, but somehow I don't seem to tie it or loop it back in to, because you get those few additional marks from it. So that looping in, I think I just wrote, like, if it's in the hoverboard, I can say something about it, but I couldn't sometimes maybe put it at the right time. When do I grab it and when do I do it? So if he has given you a set of examples and how to loop it in, I memorized it. I more or less memorized it before the exam, so that when and also I did more research, where I did on after him speaking about different acquisitions, different mergers, where somebody benefited, somebody lost in real life, to random mergers, from car industry mergers to everything. So I could just put those names in. And then I got that technique from him where to just loop it in. And he would always say at the beginning of a section, you will put all these real life examples in my writing, which is something I picked. And if it's something you're seeing, I think that was some of the few things that helped me get the confidence, because I didn't want to repeat for another time, because I was like, that was too much for my probable ego. But yeah.
Right. And also the references to the tools, the theoretical tools,
Yes.
the SWOT and the
Yes, sorry,
that
I
was
forgot. And now it's been time. But yes, those are the things, because he had given those options, like even the theoretical ones. I had put every possible theory example I can in each of my um, each question, also the practical one. So that was where I felt, because I didn't think I failed, as I said, the FEB exam, and I came out, I was pretty confident. I'd written quite well. It wasn't complicated, and I probably lost by a few marks. But I think where it was this at the end, when I really thought about it in Feb, in May when I said the exam, is I didn't really put so many examples, um, and I didn't really link. It was very much like a non-CIMA person writing. Like it was very like a random expert writing. I didn't loop in any theory. In hindsight, when I remember, I hadn't even put the keywords in, you know.
yeah.
So here, those were the two things that I did, probably just helped me shift and pass the exam.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was actually reading a couple of her answers today to
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I was prepping my presentation on lessons from mock attempts, and then I was reading, and your attempt on the final mock was like brilliant. And I was just going through it, and good times, good times.
yeah, it was good. At the end, it felt a lot more confident. At the beginning, I remember first one, I was like, I'm failing again. Um,
Yeah,
but and I did,
yeah,
I think I did roughly 5 or 6 mocks.
yeah,
And I did all the questions as much as I could. I did the mocks. I would
yeah.
recommend doing it because it's nothing like writing it out.
Exactly. In fact, if I can add on to what she said, you're looking at someone who is quite busy. Despite her busy schedule, she actually put in the work and did all of the tasks and mocks. Actually got it done like properly. Like I'd get responses at 2 a.m. in the morning and 3 a.m., which keeps me up also. And we've actually talked about it, like
About it,
how
yeah.
she's keeping me up. And then, I'd wake up early in the morning. I'd sleep at about 2 a.m. And then I'm waking at about 5:30 maybe for prayers. And then I'm looking at my desktop or my phone, and then I have a mail from her. Now I can't ignore it. I'm supposed to give feedback, and she'll be waiting on it. So it was like this was really one experience I enjoyed. I you all of you know I take the experience of just this communication between learner and teacher very personally. I try to communicate with all of you in the best possible way I can. So with Losini, actually, I personally enjoyed that experience of, she's actually someone who pushed me further and further on the SCS prep process and what you're experiencing today. I think, Lo, I have to thank you as well. We've got a good product here.
That's great. That's great.
So, okay. Um, Another question I had was, let's talk about SCS with AZB. You know, this whole process of how we prepped. When you joined, did things go as expected? And how is the like very briefly, if you could say of a couple of things that you positively took in our preparation process that you think that like genuinely helped you pass the paper, that they could also take and apply for themselves, what would those be?
So I think, first of all, our group was very small, right? And what I learned a lot is that you do give attention to one by one. So my suggestion to everyone is, you can reach out to Azman, but at the same time, he does have separate. The thing is, he had put a lot of time, so that's the difference that I saw, and there was a lot of material. If you actually went through those material, you can pass the exam. I don't have any doubt in the fact that you can pass the exam. And what it is what I liked about his approach is, because I'd done a separate example, so I know how it went, is because the one I did before, they very much gave questions that were not of the same standard as the one you get in the exam. Okay. And even if the questions were very similar, I think the way they marked it also was very like lenient, and I don't think that's the way the markers mark, because I spoke to quite a few people who had failed, but they had got very high marks in their mocks, like ridiculously high. They were considered to be the best, but they didn't pass. So what is very good is to go through the comments you had marked, you given very valuable, and he marks and he says it's a range, right? You can, even if it's a bit below your mark, don't get too disappointed. You will most likely get over. But that is one thing. And the fact that from the mini task, I did them. If you do those things, I don't see any reason why anyone would fail. And also, what he focused a lot, initially he did the sessions, and I missed a few. He did the sessions on the topic, the data, and later he'll give spreadsheets on the financials. Memorize those numbers. Don't memorize everything, but write it on a paper. He said memorize. And then the focus was on writing. From what I remember, you kept saying write, write, write. And a lot of people who didn't write as much are the ones who kind of struggled at the end. So that kind of focus, without just thinking the answer theoretically in your head on how to write, and you have, it's like, when you go for a speech, you have all these things to say, but when you speak, it all comes out jumbled. It is something of that sort, right? So the fact that you focus so much on the writing, and also all the industry information. Like, I remember you went through the Uber financial statements and highlighted sections. So even those type of what do I say, sessions, don't go through the details, but there were certain things he highlighted. And always when I took it, what I learned from it is, where can I incorporate it, right? And also, I bugged him a lot. I think I pushed him. I got well value for money. I kept saying it, and he was like, I should charge you more, which is probably true, for what the work he did. But it was the fact that how do you loop it in? Like, a lot of the problem is there's so much material. He helped a lot with writing and bringing it into, what do I say, into actually writing the exam, because there is industry information, there is financial numbers, there's all sorts of things everywhere. But the fact that he helped is coming through with it, how he incorporated it. Because the biggest problem I had at the exam, and always, I'm anyway slow at exams. That is just a personal thing. I start exams very slow and then I start fast. But here the problem is every 1 hour it stops. So that's my biggest problem I've had. So these things, because I was able to write it quite a few times, and you marked it, every single thing you marked it, which was so helpful. is what I would say, right ahead. Don't do it on the last day. I'm telling you, don't do it on the last day, you'll panic. So at least a week ahead, do all this writing, get the things, and remember how you incorporated examples, how did you put the financials in, and you'll be good. If you follow the material and actually do it, that's what my opinion is. And ask him a lot of questions. He has a lot of time. Maybe not, but not more.
Excuse me. uh, in fact, trivia. This is the final mock that Losini did.
Oh my God. I don't know anything right now.
And compared to mock one, so we've got a 56%, and I'm like very marginal pass. I'm usually more generous, can't cut it too close. And then after 5 mocks, we are here. It's a pass, and there's a commentary about how tired we were, and this journey is actually literally. I hope that it inspires you to write. She's highlighted it more than enough, and that drastic improvement. Losini, can I ask you how many marks did you get for the case study?
I forgot. I think I got 98.
She got 98, and so you know that if you get a 60% or a 65% with me, you're in a different range with respect to the pass mark. I am quite detailed and maybe a little strict in marking because I want to match the examiner's marking level. All right, Losini, one last question. Maybe two, but one simple one I want to ask you is, would you say that, because this keeps coming up, would you say that the strategic case study is a theory paper? It's a theory test, theoretical paper?
No. Okay. But the caveat I would like to say, it's not a theory paper. It has to be very practical, and there is scope for, what do I say, putting real life things, but you have to still touch on theory. Because otherwise, that's where I think I went wrong before. Even the first time I wrote it very practical, but I didn't write examples. I didn't incorporate 5 forces. I didn't incorporate any of the theory. Like if you read it, you wouldn't know someone who knew all this theory. There are theory, all those things that they're teaching in the E3 and all, none of it would I have written, right? It's a practical paper, but one thing also I think I made a mistake before is if there are different segments in a question, make sure you answer all segments because there's only maximum marks you will get for each segment. So let's say one section pros and I wrote 10 pros, I still only get 4 marks allocated if it's allocated, right? If I don't write cons, I'm not going to give, they're not going to give me 8 marks there because I didn't write cons. That's not going to happen. So make sure you structure those things, but it's not a theory paper in my view. But it's practical. It has to be practically written. It's very much practical. It's easy to write. But I think to satisfy the examiner, please put some theory in.
Exactly.
All right. That's how it.
So this last question I have is, if you could sum things up to 3 things that you could give as advices or suggestions to all the members here. 3 or key advices. The exam is coming up in a couple of weeks. As the final thoughts of what you would like to share, please.
Well, I'll just say from my experience, I would say the writing was the most important thing, completely. For a few reasons. Not everyone's, my English is all right, but not everyone's is the same because most people learned in Sinhala or Tamil. So the more you write, I understand they give the leeway, but that's very key to write it clearly. And also time management. I had a problem with time. So if I didn't write, I think I would have struggled a lot more, right? Time management is critical, so writing is critical. And the next thing is brush up on your theory. No need to write all the theories, but write the main things down, remember them. Theory and the financial data, anything that you can, the pre-seen information that you can memorize them. At that time, there's no time to refer anything. So my thing would be that. And keep writing as much as you can and leave the last day or so. I mean, I'm not the best at it, but the last day or so or 2 days to just review the information that you've given. That's probably important because you keep doing so much that you've forgotten the things that you've learned. Because brushing it up is very key just before the exam, because at the exam it will work out if he has given. Hopefully, he has given, otherwise, you ask him to give it to you.
Sure, sure. So, Lo, that's all I had for today. Thank you very much for joining. Do you have anything else that you want to share with us?
No, I that's about it. I'm just wishing all of you good luck. He's a good teacher, so get the most out of it. And if anyone else has any questions, I feel free to ask me. I have a few minutes anyways.
Yes, please. Q&A. We have almost everyone thanking you. I don't know if you can see the chat.
Yes, I could. I just did my part. Just keep at it, and it'll be all great. All the very best to everyone. Good luck. I'm hoping that will be 100% pass rate.
Yes, me too. Me too. You know. So there's this question. Was there any questions in real exam from the mocks?